How big is your God? God will provide for his sheep. What would have happened had Moses tried to figure out what was needed to accomplish God's command to leave Egypt? One of the biggest arithmetical miracles in the world was required in the desert. Moses led the people of Israel into the desert. Now what was he going to do with them? They had to be fed, and feeding 3.5 million people required a lot of food. According to the U.S. Army's Quartermaster General, Moses needed 1,500 tons of food a day, filling 2 freight trains, each a mile long. Besides, you must remember, they were cooking the food. Just for cooking this took 4,000 tons of firewood and a few more freight trains, each a mile long, and this is only for one day, not to mention for keeping warm, and if anyone tells you it doesn't get cold in the desert, don't believe them. They were for 40 years in transit. Let's not forget about water, shall we? If they only had enough to drink and wash a few dishes, no bathing, it took 11 million gallons each day, enough to fill a train of tanker cars 1,800 miles long. And another thing. They had to get across the Red Sea in one night. Now if they went on a narrow path, double file, the line would be 800 miles long and require 35 days and nights to complete the crossing. So to get it over in one night, there had to be a space in the Red Sea 3 miles wide so that they could walk 5,000 abreast. Think about this, every time they camped at the end of the day, a campground the size of Rhode Island was required, or 750 square miles. Do you think that Moses sat down and figured out the logistics of what God told him to do, before he set out from Egypt? I doubt it, but he had faith and trust that God would take care of everything. Let us have his courage, his faith and trust, because we share the very same God. Source unknown. A shepherd cares for his sheep, a policeman for his city, a father for his family, and God cares for you. Moses trusted God to provide for his people. His people didn't. Exodus 16 verses 2-3, and the whole congregation of the people of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites said to them, "Would that we had died at the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, as we sat by our flesh pots and ate our fill of bread. But you had to lead us into this desert to make the whole community die of famine." Ernest Hemingway said, "The best way to find out if you can trust someone is to trust them." Do you trust the Good Shepherd to do the best for you even when you don't immediately see the benefit? If God was able to care for an ungrateful people in the desert, certainly, he can care for you. Luke chapter 12 verses 6-7, "Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? And not one of them is forgotten before God. Why, even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, you are of more value than many sparrows. Trust in the Lord, he is always faithful."